OK. Yes, you, the woman there, stuck your hand right up.
The problem we've got with this is that Meghan has agreed to be Harry's wife, and then the press have torn her to pieces. And let's be really clear about what this is. Let's call it by its name. It's racism. She's a black woman, and she has been torn to pieces.
You can't.
She has been torn to pieces.
It's not racism.
It absolutely is.
We're the most tolerant, lovely country in Europe. Let's celebrate our women. It's not racism. It's so easy to throw the charge of racism at everybody, and it's really starting to get boring.
What worries me about your comment is you are a white privileged male who has no experience in it.
I mean,
I can't help what I am. I was born like this. It's an immutable characteristic. So to call me a white privileged male is to be racist. You're being racist.
You cannot dismiss.
OK. I'm not taking a view either way. I'll just add in that Priti Patel, the Home Secretary, also took the view that it wasn't racism. I'm not making a judgment on that either way. The woman in the red top there, as this question's asked, you were nodding your head along vigorously. What have you got to say?
Oh, well, I think when Meghan first married Harry, I thought it was a breath of fresh air. I thought it was good. I thought it was nice to have somebody like her who was not a royal. She came from America. She came from an ordinary background. I thought that was all great. But I think that she's actually joined a club and now she just doesn't like the rules and she wants to opt out. And as Laurence said, I think surely she must have she's an intelligent woman. Surely she must have realised some of what was going to happen.
But it might be Harry
who's
driving
this. Harry, but it seems to be that it's Meghan that it's all about. I don't know.
Oh, no, we don't. We can only speculate, can't we? Yeah. Shami, what's your take on this?
I think that you've got to walk around in someone else's shoes. Now, I know that to be royalty is not to be the worst off person in the country or on the planet, but I still try to walk around in someone else's shoes. And I do think that some of the things that are being said are pretty harsh. And I would never say that because you're a white man, you don't have a perspective, but I would ask you to consider the perspective of anybody who's had a different experience. And I know that Britain is a wonderful country, and I'm second to no one in my love of my country, but it is, loving your country doesn't mean that you say there is no racism in the country and there are no issues in the press. Forgive me, and I think in this city, perhaps more than anywhere else in this country, you know about abuses by parts of the press. And and if we want to be specific and look at evidence, I looked at a piece, I think it was in BuzzFeed today, where there was a very forensic comparison between the treatment of the two princes.
Well, shall I quote? Because I got it. Yeah. So this is the Daily Express. So the Daily Express is talking about Kate choosing flowers, and in August they said, in 2011, this is obviously for the wedding, like the bride herself, the bouquet was effortlessly elegant and understated. Then the Daily Express on Meghan choosing flowers for her wedding, how Meghan Markle's flowers may have put Princess Charlotte's life at risk. Now that's obviously wholly select. I'm not saying that represents the Daily Express's perspective on the thing. But that's
and it goes on and it goes on, and one's touching their bump too much and the other one's not touching it enough, and avocados are good and avocados are evil. It was so forensically done, and it's not just the press. I mean, some of the I mean, I'm not on social media because I'm a dinosaur, but I'm also not on social media because some of it is just so awful. And I do think, forgive me, I do think that that the Duchess of Sussex has had some really rough treatment. Now the question was, is it right that they should profit from their it's tricky, isn't it? Because we can't have it sort of both ways. If we say we want a slimmed down royal family, we want to spend less public money on people who are not in the direct line of succession, etc., etc., you say that on the one hand, and then you say, oh, but they shouldn't profit from their royal. They cannot. Prince Harry cannot escape his birth and his status, and part of that is a very, very tragic story about losing your mother when you're too young. I have some sympathy for that, I have some empathy for that, and I think we should just tone it down a little bit.
Laurence, did you want to come back in before I go?
Yeah, I think that it's one of the dangerous things about throwing racism around in this country, which we're doing a lot at the moment, is people become so conscious of it that things like the Manchester grooming scandal get ignored. So that, you know, we need to be careful that we need to call out racism when it's seen, when it's obvious and when it's there, and we should stand together to condemn it. But for fear of sounding racist, there's been horrific things have happened in Manchester and in towns all over the north of England, and we should be careful and use racism when it's there and it's obvious, and not call someone racist just because they don't agree with you.
Alan, so coming back to the original question,